television. Welcome, subjects of the British Empire, appliance salesmen, and face-stealing incorporeal aliens, to episode 326 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 23rd of October, 2019, and featuring The Idiot's Lantern, written by Mark Gatiss, and starring David Tennant as the Doctor and Billy Piper as Rose Tyler. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and wow, am I rusty at this part. With me are Mad Matt Winchell.
I still live.
The Enchanter Sheridan.
Look, Sulu, the sun's come out. It's a miracle.
I guess now that we're back to New Who, with us once again full time is Thomas Fireheart.
Yay!
Oh, I'm really tired.
Ooh.
Randy Ronson McCulloch is out sick this evening, so he plans to catch up with us next week, which also means that since he is pretty much at every podcast, that we are going to be improvising, covering his roles with no experience in doing some of it.
Huzzah!
So anybody have anything interesting in the past 2 weeks they need to get off their chest?
I went to the Joker twice. That's the first movie I've ever done that with.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remembered how long some episodes of Critical Role are, because I went from somewhere in the 70s or maybe the late 60s or something to now I'm in episode 90 of Campaign 1, and it was it took me 2 days to get through one that was 5.5 hours long, because it was just oh God.
I sit through those live every night.
It's great, it's enjoyable, but it's also I would leave it too late, and then I'm oh shit.
Although every once in a while it's oh, come on guys, you know which dice you need to roll. You've been doing this for a million months now.
so as for myself, I've been actually on 2 trips out of state. I spent a weekend in Chicago at the National Gathering for US El Salvador Sister Cities, effectively a group of activists and other people interested in improving the lives both of people in El Salvador and of dealing with immigrant rights and related issues and other things stemming from U.S. interference in Central America. After that, I spent a weekend in Columbus, Ohio, presenting and experiencing research as part of an International Writing Center conference. And I actually had my presentation live tweeted, which is a first for me, and that was pretty exciting.
Yay! So you've been busy. I'm trying to think of anything else of particular note has come up. I can't go visit my grandmother this weekend because I found out trick-or-treating is happening this weekend. It's oh, great, thanks.
That often happens. Well, yeah, I guess it can't be I guess they can't wait until November 1st, so it has to be this weekend. I remember when trick-or-treating was done on the night of the 31st, regardless of whether it was a school night. And then those kids started hanging out on my lawn. Damn you.
I mean, what, and I also remember when trick-or-treating was held at the night, no matter what, at least in some towns, and they didn't have a single issue with it. What happened to that?
I remember I wanted to go as Rambo one year, and my mom insisted I wear a jacket, and it's Mom, you're missing a fundamental point of Rambo.
Maybe you
For that
should have wore a
matter,
muscle suit top or something.
For that matter, I'm also seeing, I don't know if this was state or municipal legislatures passing laws to fine anybody over the age of 12 trick-or-treating. So if your high school freshman wants to go trick-or-treating, they could get slapped with a $500 fine.
Okay, someone's reaching too hard and needs to be slapped in the face.
I mean, I guess that means that they'd rather those same kids go out with eggs and toilet paper instead.
Because that's the alternative. Let me tell you, I preferred it when I was like about 14 or 15, and I decided to dress up and hand out candy. I don't know the kids in the neighborhood prefer it, but I enjoyed.
For me as a teenager, like trick or treating as one of the older kids, like that was a way just to hang out with your younger siblings or, other younger people in the neighborhood. There was one or two older kids and one or two kids that were like 2 to 4 years younger, and that way, they had somebody a little more reliable they could trust to be supervising. I guess they're like, nope, fuck that. 12-year-olds need to handle themselves and know what to do in an emergency.
and screw having fun. A bunch of psychopaths in our government, I swear. No matter where you look. Anyway, outside of the government making me sad.
Yeah. All right, so on our show tonight, we have news and birthdays. We do have one lost story included in that. Then we have some geek talk. As we mentioned, I was flying, so I was able to see some movies, and there were also some other movies and games that Matt experienced. Then we'll have our episode summary, and then the review, final thoughts, and ratings.
Yep. So speaking of, I believe we're starting on birthdays.
Yep, so that would be Tim.
Some birthdays. On October 11th, we celebrate Nicola Bryant, best known to viewers as Perry, companion to the 5th and 6th Doctors. And then on October 14th, Katie Manning had a birthday, best known for her time on Doctor Who as Jo Grant, a companion to the 3rd Doctor. October 17th, Mark Gatiss, along with being a writer for multiple stories, including the one we're reviewing tonight, in current Doctor Who, Mark has also been an actor for a number of episodes and parodies. He directed the episode Invaders from Mars and produced the historical An Adventure in Time and Space, based around the creation of Doctor Who, and stopping at the end of the Hartnell era. 20th October, Anarchy Wills. To Who fans, she is best known as Polly, one of the 4 companions to the 2nd Doctor, and recently starred in our previous episode, The Macro Terror. And then on the 22nd of October, which is yesterday, Sir Dirk Jacobi, through appearing once in New Who as an older master, Jacobi has also done one animated short series as a master before his live version, and has continued to play as the War Master in Big Finish.
Matt, were you counting Ben and Polly as one companion?
Ben, Polly, then
Jamie, Zoe, and Victoria.
Jamie, Zoe, and what?
Victoria.
Oh,
She
I
was there
forgot about
for a
Victoria.
brief
So
time
1 of
before
5.
Zoe.
I missed one.
Gotcha.
I forgot about Victoria. She was
I mean,
there
to
for
be
such a
fair,
short period of
Victoria
time.
probably, I was going to say, she probably wasn't there
Yeah.
that long, so it's fair enough.
But she was there for a season.
She was there for roughly a season between the 2 half seasons she was in.
She had that little will they, won't they going on with Jamie.
For a small bit, yeah.
All right, so happy birthday, Nicola, Katie, Mark, Annika, and Sir Derek.
Yes, and happy returns. Okay, so...
That being said, we sadly have to go on to some less happy news.
Yes. An Unearthly Podcast is sad to announce that actor Stephen Moore, who played the Eldane, the reasonable Silurian, in the series 5-episode Cold Blood, has died at the age of 81. Outside of Doctor Who, fans may know Moore as the original radio and TV voice of Marvin the Paranoid Android and Douglas Adams's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I didn't catch
Moore
that
was
part about
also known
Hitchhiker's
for his
Guide.
work on stage.
In the size of a planet, and he's remembered for playing a Silurian.
Bring the size of a planet, and I remember him for Marvin. You call that self-satisfaction? Because I don't.
The article did not give a cause of death, which I'm presuming is because he was 81.
Possibly. It is.
Yeah.
He did have a good run, so hopefully it wasn't something that caught him too early.
Right.
Yeah. It's either just general old age, or it might have also just been one of those things where the family didn't want to make it public, which is fair enough.
At least for the moment, yeah.
All right. So moving from
Goodbye, Mr.
less
Moore.
happy news to some news we've been anticipating. A new paradigm of Daleks has been spotted. The Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol was closed for, quote, assessment, end quote, last night. And what was spotted on the bridge but a new black and silver set of Daleks being filmed for Series 12. There's actually some pretty good, fairly close photos in the article there.
I'm trying to see some of these. That one didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped.
Looks like
for
there's
the
also
pictures.
some Ninth Doctor Daleks mixed in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely the bronzy ones.
Mm.
The bronze ones are front and center for the most part. I'm trying to
Right,
get
so
a good look at the black ones and black and silver ones, and I'm not really
wondering-
seeing them.
I mean, in that first photo, they're
If
Yeah.
the view this post on Instagram, because it's giving me a big blank.
oh, are you looking at it in Chrome or?
Firefox.
Oh, so maybe it's an issue that Cultbox has with Firefox because I'm looking at it in Chrome and it's very clear.
I don't think it's Cultbox. I think it's Instagram has an issue with Firefox.
Got you.
Apparently.
If you click on the link on the view more on Instagram link, are you able to see it clearly?
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. They have the slimmer look of the newest Dalek too, a little bit. The one that handmade itself on Earth.
Okay.
From the last episode we had. Yeah, the top looks a little more narrow, like the handmade one.
It does, yeah.
Like at the
Because
base
it's
of it
funny
looks
'cause-
like it's normal Dalek, but it does narrow quite a bit to the top.
I'm wondering if that's a new like Dalek Supreme or something. Since
That's a
there's only one.
possibility, or like a new
Or at
Dalek
least I
group
think
of
I only
leaders,
see one
maybe.
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
because it
funny
seems to
'cause
be
I
only
think-
one black and silver one, and there's plenty of the
Right.
bronzy
Yeah.
chrome ones around.
Now, I would almost say, especially being next to the bronze ones, I would almost say Cult of Skaro, but I'm pretty sure they're all wiped out.
They were supposed to be, at least
Yeah.
from what we were told, but maybe there was
Yeah.
extra ones running around. But leader
They're
is
the
just
fifth-
as likely.
They're the fifth member that left the band early.
Oh, isn't he the one that like dies as a result of Journey's End though?
There
Oh,
was
no,
just Bill
I was-
saying that he's saying something like before those events.
I was joking.
Ah.
I'm pretty sure there's a Beatles reference in there if I knew the
Ah,
Beatles.
okay.
But that's what I'm basically saying is that he quit the a cult member that quit the cult before we heard about Con. But I don't know if I probably don't want them to go that way.
Yeah, let's not
really
just
good
borrow
story.
the same old
Yeah.
ideas.
Exactly.
Yeah, think about it. The Cult of Skaro was the last time we saw a black Dalek, wasn't it? At least as far as
we
without
might
having to go to Old Who anyway. Because I think one of them was black, one of them was red or something, and
might have seen some of the
like that.
Magician's Apprentice because there was all the different old styles.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a possibility too.
Anybody else have anything to say about this article?
I think that's about all we can feed in the moment.
Yeah.
The Dalek into a truck. How the Daleks?
An Optimus Dalek?
More than
All right,
needs to exterminate.
This is time for Tim to take the next article.
I
All
suppose.
right. We go on to awards. Chris Chibnall, Jodie Whittaker, and the Doctor Who cast and crew of the Series 11 episode The Woman Who Fell to Earth have been granted honorary doctorates from Sheffield Hallam University.
Okay.
Yes,
It doesn't look like there's much more detail than that. So I think it was just literally, hey, you filmed this in Sheffield. We're also in Sheffield. We're going to give you recognition.
That's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
oh.
In other words, it had about as much meaning as handing out Nobel Peace Prizes lately. Just everyone will get one just because you did something interesting. Okay.
I guess that's all we've got to say about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not much there, but okay.
Mm.
Interesting. Thank you. Bye.
Yep. I'll bet they display it on their mantelpieces, like that's the award that they get the most recognition for. Like they carry it with them when they go shopping and say, "You have to pay." No, I don't. I won this award. Oh, like go right ahead.
Well,
you know?
I mean, now every member of the crew can present themselves as the Doctor.
Wah, wah. All right. So on to the next one.
Yep.
Some more Sill news.
Okay. Koch Media has announced an original drama for the 4th of November featuring everyone's famous Jabba the Hutt clone and Ferengi antecedent Sill from the Sixth Doctor era. In Sill and the Devil Seeds of Arador, produced and directed by Keith Barnfather, Sill has been found guilty of drug crimes and has been sentenced to death. As time runs out and friends desert him, Sill must use all of his devious, vile, underhanded, ruthless, and amoral business acumen to survive. Can he possibly slime his way out of this one? And also from Koch Media, a series of 6 documentaries under the combined title of The Doctor's More Monsters will be out on November 4th. More Monsters, which is presented by Robert Dick and Nick Briggs, features interviews with Nabil Shaban, Sill from Vengeance on Barrows, Christopher Ryan, Kib from Trial and the Time Lord, Stephen Thorne, who played numerous baddies including Proto Time Lord Omega, Terry Molly, who played Davros, and
That was a typo. That should be Malloy. Sorry.
Molly, who played Davros, and Stuart Fell and John Davey, Nicholas Briggses of the day. This 2-disc special collector's edition is described as 5 hours of pure nostalgia.
Interesting. I'm more interested in the offshoot Sill story because we've mentioned a couple times they could revisit him by now.
Yeah, they. I know Big Finish has covered some of the scripts that were written for him that were never filmed. Which, yeah, I think we've talked about that once or twice as well. But
Mm-hmm.
he does seem to really enjoy the role, even though it was apparently kind of a physical challenge at first.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a role he's always been well known for, and he seems to always have enjoyed playing it despite any difficulties in it.
Right, that brings us on to book news. First off, Candy Jar Books has announced the second entry in the Lethbridge Stewart Bloodlines series with The Shadow Man by Sharon Bidwell. A temporal disruption ripping through the causal nexus has reached 1978, picking up from a very private haunting in an alternate reality where Lethbridge Stewart was never involved in the founding of UNIT. And UNIT co-founder Anne Travers and her husband are faced with a mystery in France. The Shadow Man is for sale at the end of October and can be pre-ordered now from candyjarbooks.co.uk.
Interesting. I know of a comic book character called Shadow Man. I think I heard recently he's got a 3rd series going again.
Probably no relation.
Most likely, because it's definitely an American creation. I believe the original Shadow Man was based in New Orleans.
All right. Also upcoming, Terraqueous Distributors, who earlier this year released the unofficial Doctor Who Annual 1972, are back at it with the unofficial Doctor Who Annual 1987. These books are in the spirit of the original annuals released through the 1980s. The unofficial Doctor Who annual 1987 features contributions from Jamie McCrimmon actor Fraser Hines, Doctor Who novel cover artist Alistair Pearson, and Doctor Who critic David J. Howe, among others. It can be purchased through lulu.com at a price yet to be determined starting in November.
So this is like an update to the annuals or something?
Yeah, so I guess it's so the cover art says it features stories, features, puzzles, and strips. So I guess these are just like specials celebrating that year in Doctor Who.
Okay, so it's like it's like a special like
came out
one-shot
regularly.
magazine that would like cover some extra stories, some
Yeah.
any popular news from the year, add some
Right.
puzzles for the kiddies, and like maybe comic strips if you're particularly interested.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Alrighty, that could be interesting.
Judging by the fact that Fraser Hines is involved, I'm guessing that's the year that the two Doctors came out. I haven't done the math,
72
but
or no, 87.
87. Sounds about right.
Two Doctors? Yeah, that's possible. Especially since we also have the Sixth Doctor on the cover. Alrighty. And next book? Oh wait, no, that was the last book. Edge of Time.
Now we move on to games.
Yes.
Doctor Who: The Edge of Time, a new feature-length VR video game, will launch on November 12th, 2019. Players equipped with the sonic screwdriver solve mind-bending puzzles, escape treacherous environments, and come face-to-face with classic Doctor Who monsters including the Daleks and the Weeping Angels. We probably don't want to go face-to-face with the Weeping Angels for obvious reasons. The Edge of Time features voices by Jodie Whittaker and Nicholas Briggs, and a story written by Gavin Collinson. The game will release for PlayStation VR, Oculus Rift, Oculus Quest, HTC Vive, and HTC Vive Cosmos.
And
cool.
I just want to hang my head in shame because VR just really does not want to take off. I hear that one of the most recent ones actually seems to be going in the right direction, but they still haven't perfected it yet. One of the most recent, I think it was one of the Vives. It was either a Vive or an Oculus, I forget which, but one of them has finally gone completely wireless, which is a godsend.
At least, they're further along than when the Virtual Boy came out.
I just find it funny that this is technically releasing on my birthday, but it's like, but it's a VR thing, so I'm not really interested.
Yeah.
I'm not Catholic, but I felt the urge to cross myself when you mentioned the Virtual Boy.
Oh, blessed be the poor soul that made that. At least he made a Game Boy.
Anyway, then more news from audio. 10th Doctor David Tennant and 13th Doctor Jodie Whittaker have contributed their voices to a charity album for children in need to be released on November 1st. The album, titled Got It Covered, consists of celebrity covers of a variety of songs. Jodie sings the Coldplay track Yellow, while David sings Sunshine on Leith by the Proclaimers.
I tried to watch the video on the website. It's blocked in the United States.
Oh.
Yeah,
great.
giant middle finger to this for releasing a video that's only available, I assume, in Britain.
So
most likely,
I'm wondering if it got copyright claimed by the original rights holders, even though I'm sure they signed an agreement saying it was okay.
Yeah, YouTube's run by robots, so everything's fucked up.
Everything involving copyright and YouTube is inherently broken.
Including its own logic.
Yep.
All right. So, anything else to say about that? I think that's so Big Finish.
Okay. Out now from Big Finish, the Fifth Doctor gets a new companion, Mark, former Roman slave. He joins the Doctor, Nyssa, and Tegan for a two-story set in Interstitial by Carl Rowans. The Doctor and his companions discover a research facility conducting dangerous time experiments. In Feast of Fear by Martin Waits, a carnival traveling the Irish countryside during the famine brings something else along with them. Interstitial/Fear of Feast of Fear is available now as a collector's edition CD or download at the Big Finish website from £12.99. And also out now from Big Finish's Torchwood line, Smashed features Gwen Cooper investigating a sudden illness in the town of Glintag, or it's Welsh. I don't know if I got that right, but anyway, something ancient that's woken up beneath the ground and will do whatever it can to protect itself. The hunters have been unleashed, and there's only one way to stay safe. Torchwood Smashed is available now as a collector's edition CD at £9.99, or on download from the Big Finish website at £7.99.
Glinteg is what I would assume the pronunciation is. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but it's
What I
Welsh,
would
so
assume-
you can never really be sure.
It's what it looks like. Learn to pronounce what it looks like, Welsh.
Welsh and Gaelic are two languages from that part of the world that are often incomprehensible in their pronunciation, because apparently when translating things, instead of trying to spell it phonetically, they just copied over letters that looked kind of like English letters.
Huh.
As for the festival fear of whatever and Feast of Fear, is it just me or does oh goddamn, why is my brain hemorrhaging names right now? Not Tegan, Nissa. Why does Nissa look like Mad Moxie to me? Someone got that reference. You all need to play Borderlands.
I must admit I haven't,
That I
but
do.
I do know the character that you're talking about anyway.
Borderlands, what kind of JRPG is that?
Well, it's sort of an RPG.
Is it J?
Japanese, no.
Okay, I can't say that because I've also played the odd BioWare game, so I can't claim to only play JRPGs.
I was about to say you've played some MMOs. You can't say that every RPG is Japanese.
Unless EverQuest counts, I've played one MMO.
No, EverQuest is not only an MMO. You've also played Knights of the Old Republic, my sir.
That's what I was gonna say. Unless RuneScape counts, I've played one MMO, which is the Old Republic.
RuneScape also counts because RuneScape is like an ancient MMO at this point.
It's like pre-MMO. The word like MMO was not even a term yet when I was playing RuneScape.
Well, that's what it is. Did you know they're still releasing everything in the classic engine still? Literally, the RuneScape Classic, air quotes, that's what they call it, is actually still a popular thing.
Seems to be a trend nowadays of the classic versions of long-running MMOs.
Well, they just did WoW Classic, and that was before Blizzard foot and mouthed big time. But whereas WoW Classic is literally them only having stuff up to a certain point, RuneScape Classic has actually been getting all of the current updates.
Okay.
But they still do it in the old engine.
I do think that if they did the Old Republic Classic, it would have an audience.
I don't know about that. That means you have to pay to play. I'm pretty sure most of its current audience is free players, except for the people who buy expansions. Anyway, this is totally an aside, and we should get moving.
Right.
Are we good with Big Finish?
Yeah, so I think we've covered
down to
everything
Geek
for
Talk.
Big Finish.
So it starts up the Geek Talk, which I believe is heading to me first for game stuff.
is.
Mhm.
All right, so the first thing I'm going to cover very quickly is Zombie Trilogy, and actually I didn't bring up a stopwatch. Let me fix that problem right now,
Watch for
and
video games.
3, 2, 1, go. So covering over Zombie Army Trilogy really quickly. The basic, very very basic setup is that Hitler decided that he was losing World War II and was using magic and summoned up zombies. This includes turning himself into a zombie. And the entirety of what's going on in Zombie Army Trilogy is you're one of 4 characters, unless you're playing some weird side character that got added in as more or less DLC later. And you are trying to end the new zombie invasion that's taking over after the events of World War II. And the long and short of it, this is all 3 games wrapped into one. And it pretty much ends with a giant face-off against you-know-who at the very end. And this silly mustache. So I guess the one thing I have to critique about the game is that the game comes in multiplayer, which is obvious. You a full party of 4, very obvious you want to have a full group if you can. Thing is, the game also comes in single player, and I have to say, I believe I played it in easy. I would have to try it again, but I played it in easy, and I can't beat a level. You get to like the last boss of the level, and he just rips you in half.
Damn.
So playing single player is pretty much pointless in these games. Maybe you can go in there and collect stuff solo, but that's all you're going to be able to do, and you'll just get pulverized at the end, and you might as well quit. Playing it with multiplayer, though, was extremely fun, and we were able to, despite a few moments of panic, actually get through it without having to restart levels completely, which apparently was a problem previously with this group, so I'm glad as a 4th member to help them finally push through. And I think that's about all I have to really say about that. Very solid for multiplayer. Would not suggest single player. Go elsewhere. All right. 2 minutes on that one. So reset and cover Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 5 is a weird one. It's still a survival horror game, although it has a little more action than the normal Resident Evils do until 6. Don't bother with 6, I hear. It's pretty terrible. They took the wrong lessons from 5. Resident Evil 5 pretty much plays like Resident Evil 4, but again, I think they have a little more action and a little less survival to it. But there are definitely some of the same elements there. There's a lot of explanations and wrapping up of things throughout the franchise, including what happened to certain characters that created all of these problems, and what's the aftermath of Umbrella, which there is another corporation that took over and might have been the parent company. And also, I will say that there's a bit of a weird kerfuffle with this one because of the majority, except for one DLC of this game, takes place in Africa, and for whatever reason, they took African zombies as being a bad thing. I don't know. They seem to treat it no differently than they did any Western or European version of the game when they took place in other places. So, they treat it pretty fairly. They seem to be more or less the same zombies as the Resident Evil 4 ones in particular. So, that, and we still have representation as we are. The game actually forces you to play with 2 players, whether it's single player or with 2 players. And your second character, outside of Chris from the previous Resident Evils, is a new gal named Shiva, I believe, and she's part of the African team that Chris is meeting up with. And she's a permanent partner for the rest of the story. Other than that, not much to say. It was a pretty solid game. It's a little more actiony than the previous ones, and I hear the AI partner can be bad, but I played a 2-player all the way through, and that was fun. We did try to play 4-player multiplayer, but the game would crash every time we got more than 2 people in the room. So,
Are you
Capcom.
implying that AI is sufficiently advanced that sometimes the NPC is actually helpful?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Bill, I've seen that happen as far back as the original Game Boy. The AI doesn't need to be dumb. It can be
Really?
quite useful, yes.
What game was that?
That one in particular was, I believe they called it Triamana. It was also otherwise known as Final Fantasy Adventure on the Game Boy. You had AI that would wander around and shoot at shit when you were in danger. So that, and you had one of them, I believe, that would wander around but stick close, and you could talk to them and they would heal you. AI doesn't need to be dumb.
Makes me wonder if Donald still uses all of your potions as soon as you get to 90% health.
All of your potions in in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I do know that he says, "Whew, we're finally safe," just before literally getting knocked 10 feet away by a hurricane. So there you go. Good old Donald.
Literally anybody who says we're finally safe is asking for trouble.
Yep,
So
and that's Donald for you.
Yes.
And that's it for my video games. I think all of them were pretty good. They were solid with teammates, but I would not suggest them in single player. Happens. All right, so Bill, Avengers, and
All
I'm
right,
putting on the
so-
timer, so try to get them within 5 minutes, I'd say.
So Avengers was interesting that I actually had to watch this in over 3 separate flights, 1 hour each, because my flights were not long enough to watch Avengers Endgame on them. So I think this has been pretty much talked out, but other than major spoilers that I couldn't help but see, I tried to avoid them. I went into this very sleep deprived, so I couldn't quite tell if the movie was bringing tears to my eyes because it was so good, or if I was just in that kind of state where I was preconditioned for it. But I definitely found quite a few touching moments, a lot of callbacks to previous movies. I thought that could have been spread a little bit more evenly, but I guess they didn't want to ruin the plot and just make it entirely a clip show. They filmed more new locales than I would have expected them to. And yeah, some of the scenes that people talked about a lot, I kind of thought were going to be more major things than they were. But one of the major deaths I kind of saw coming a mile away, and I'm pretty sure anybody who saw Infinity War also saw it coming a mile away.
Mm.
And I'm not sure what new thing I have to say about this that hasn't already been said because I'm kind of late to this party. But it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to say I agreed with every single decision made, but I would still consider it, high B, A minus movie. I think it did everything it needed to. It really felt like it was like a Buffy season 3 finale sort of, the end of that's basically what it was a season 3 finale. It was the end of this era of Marvel movies, and it was pretty fitting in that. And some of the decisions only really made sense in that context, but I think that context is enough given that it's kind of the end of a saga. And yeah, it's if you enjoy superhero movies at all, I recommend it. If not, you probably weren't considering it anyway.
All right. Yep, solid 2 minutes. Reset. And Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Godzilla King of the Monsters. So this movie is, if in Final Fantasy VII, if Avalanche set out to unleash the weapons and Cloud was a giant lizard and Sephiroth was also a giant lizard. So that was the first analogy I made watching this movie. I made another analogy watching it, but I can't quite remember that off the top of my head. And if I try to think about it, I'm going to spend 5 minutes thinking of it.
Mm-hmm.
So on one hand, I really enjoyed this movie. They did basically modern graphic takes of a lot of classic monsters. And it was very visually interesting. There was good character drama. On the other hand, scientifically, it was really dumb.
Yeah.
Any writer who strives to maintain scientific realism in their monster movies will be pissed off at this movie. However, I feel like that's the worst thing I can say about it. Is that it does not even make a reasonable attempt for scientific realism. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of Godzilla movies have that problem. So it's not like that's anything new. I'm still a little iffy on the new Godzilla design, but it's no worse than it was in the previous movie. I loved all the other new monster designs. Mothra beat the shit out of a Rodan.
Which is a cool thing to see.
Yes. Yeah, it was fun to watch. I didn't have any problem with the characters. I didn't have any problem with the monsters.
I will
People
say the only
complain
problem
about-
I had was that there's too much human stuff, and I want more monster bashing, but that's almost typical of the American movies, it seems.
I mean, a lot of the Japanese movies are the same way, and I didn't have any. Oh, that's right. So the other thing that's right. That reminds me of the other thing. So I found it really fucking funny that Tywin Lannister was giving the world over to a dragon.
You would find some connection like that, wouldn't you?
As a Game of Thrones fan, that was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, the human plot, it was a fan. It was the same sort of plot you would expect from any Japanese, especially the Millennium era Godzilla movies. The plot was, the human drama was not very different from those. Like, it was its own story, but
I'm not
Yeah,
saying that the drama was bad, but I'm saying that the drama dragged on for too long. We could have chopped that up in half. Made this an hour and a half movie.
I guess I could see that. I don't think there was any more of it than the average Godzilla movie, so I really didn't see it anything to complain about. I guess if you feel that the average Godzilla movie has too much human drama, then that's a personal opinion that we can, I don't have a problem with you having that opinion.
Occasionally, it depends on the movie.
I did find it really weird that I don't know if they consulted any Japanese in the making of the movie, but I did find it really weird that there was this big emotional hugging scene that I'm pretty sure that even in a high emotional situation, most Japanese people would have considered inappropriate, while Americans would have considered it perfectly normal.
That
And
being
so-
said, these are also Japanese people who are around people from different countries
Yeah,
for how
it's
long?
an international task force. It's basically
Yeah.
it's almost like a UN thing, but I found that a little weird, and I kind of wondered if they consulted any cultural advisors for that. But that's basically a nitpick, to be
Yeah.
honest. So
Yeah, that's a nitpick. It's a cultural thing, and not everyone's going to be aware of that norm anyway.
it's like Final Wars, but a little better. It borrows some elements from Godzilla versus Destroyer, and yeah,
I
if
mean,
you're
Destroyer!
Also,
If you're a fan of
did you
Millennium
notice the different interactions between the Ghidorah heads?
did I actually thought that it would be played up a little bit more because I saw the memes and I was kind
I
of
was hoping for a bit
lower
more
key
too
than I
myself, but it's
expected.
like, okay, we at least got something.
That said, I fucking loved the soundtrack. It was all these
Oh, yes.
remix classic Godzilla themes, and I just
Mhm.
loved it.
A majority of it was, yes.
So yeah, if you're a fan of Japanese Godzilla movies, it's definitely
It's very
enjoyable.
close. It's the closest they've gotten so far.
It's very it's a modern take on the average Godzilla movie. So it's not to either of the extremes, I feel, other than
Yeah.
there's a lot of monsters in it. So like I compared it to Final Wars. But in terms of drama, things like that, it's kind of in the middle. It's not toward either extreme of having the best drama or the worst. Just kind of in the middle.
Actually, the
So
movie
if
I
you
would
enjoy
compare
the
this to the most would be the first King Ghidorah movie. Because at the end of that one, they required Rodan and Mothra to help Godzilla.
yeah, there's a lot of similarities, and I do feel like it was like how the MCU or the Arrowverse kind of borrows elements from other comic stories and couples them
Mhm.
together to one new story. that's what they did here. They were borrowing from a lot of different Godzilla movies to make one new movie. And I do feel that they're going to kind of run out of material if they keep doing that. But I do think it came out together to be a pretty good movie.
That being said, I believe they're only technically licensed for sure for one more movie. That's for sure. We don't know if there might be another one yet.
Based on
Yeah.
the titles they're using so far, I'm guessing it will be called Gigantus the Fire Monster.
Nope. Nope.
I hope it has Jet
You
Jaguar.
forgot the one that came before this one, Bill.
Bill?
Bill?
I mean, before this one.
The one that came before this one. Which
Godzilla,
one was it?
and then Godzilla King of the Monsters. Pretty sure after
You
that
missed
would
the
be
middle one.
The big monster
It's a
movie that
second-
came in between.
Kong Skull Island?
the one that did not have
Yeah.
Godzilla in it. That one.
Yeah. That's the
That's-
same
To
company.
be fair, if you caught it,
It's the same
they
company,
do
but it's not.
reference King
It's
Kong
not.
a few
It wasn't
times.
Godzilla 2. It was.
Bill,
It was a
the next title is already Godzilla versus King Kong.
Oh, because I heard the next one confirmed was supposed to have Mechagodzilla in it.
No, I don't know where you're getting that rumor from. I know for a fact that they've been saying up and down, next one is Godzilla
Yeah.
versus King Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And after
In a way,
that,
you could
Godzilla
argue
will face the giant claw.
Yeah, even back
Like,
when
you
this
know-
movie was announced, they had announced that the third one was going to have Mechagodzilla. I guess
Actually, I don't even think it's going to be Mechagodzilla. Actually, after that spoiler at the
that was
end,
before
Bill,
they got
I
King
think it might be a different mecha. You did see the after credits scene, right?
You know what? I might not have because.
Oh, do I need to spoil this? Do I need to spoil this then?
I would be okay with you spoiling it.
So, spoilers. Anyone tune out that doesn't want to hear this for next couple minutes. At the very end of the movie, our main bad guy, who was the terrorist, he walks into a room after paying a huge amount of money, and he's got a Ghidorah head.
Okay.
Mecha Ghidorah. There we go.
Could see it. Although in this movie, Ghidorah has a healing factor, so it may just be straight up Ghidorah again.
Maybe. But I'm still more leaning towards Mecha Ghidorah because let's do it again. That was badass and
I'm
out
trying
of
to
nowhere.
remember. There wasn't a movie named Mechaghidorah, right? It was
No.
just
That was oh god, which one was that one
had
now?
a Mechaghidorah toy, so I know
I think it was
existed,
Godzilla
but I never
versus
remember what it was.
I think it was just Godzilla versus Ghidorah, unless I'm misremembering what the subtitle was for it.
Gotcha.
It was essentially the big follow-up after Godzilla 85, I believe.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that King of the Monsters
Yeah, it was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah.
Didn't do incredibly well box office wise, so I feel like any Godzilla movies post Godzilla versus King Kong will probably just depend on how well that movie does.
Yeah, that's gonna be the big one.
Kaiju fans really love Ghidorah, but I guess they're just not a large enough chunk of the people that pay to see a lot of movies.
That's a possibility too. That maybe they made back their money in DVD. I don't know for sure.
Oh yeah, that would be nice if so. And you were right, by the way. It is Godzilla versus King Ghidorah.
Yep.
So that said,
my memory can get a bit foggy on some titles, but I remember most of them. There's a few I still need to watch. I don't know if I have a Biollante movie yet or not. Kyle, do I have a Biollante? Yes, I do. No. Yeah, I do. Oh, God, I need to watch that yet. Anyway. Is that it for King of the Monsters? Oh, wow. Yeah, we're 10 minutes now. All right, so me covering the Joker. Oh God, the Joker's been an interesting one. I watched the Joker and I need to immediately go back and watch it again because I feel halfway through the movie you're suddenly got a veil lifted and you're like, oh wait, I need to backtrack now and revisit like a ton of this movie. This movie does a very good job covering mental illnesses and what it's like to possibly be suffering from one. I have a working theory now that we don't actually see a majority of the movie being told in truth until like the last third of the movie because of the stuff going on.
Interesting, because I've heard a take that most of the last third of the movie was a hallucination.
I believe the opposite is true. I believe the Joker's been sedated purposely.
Right. Well, it's because I heard that apparently it cuts back and forth between him in Arkham and him outside.
He only goes to Arkham once, and there's only one cut back to him having previously been there. At the very end of the movie, it suddenly flash forwards. Like apparently, yeah. Here's the thing. So at the very end, I hope you don't mind some minor spoilers here. It flashes forward and it looks like he's been telling the entire story up to that point, and he's apparently in Arkham. Supposedly, we don't know for sure.
Gotcha.
But he survived all the events. That's what we do know for sure. My belief is that the last third of the story is probably the most truthful because I think the drugs were messing with his mind. And a lot of what happened beforehand was a mixture of reality and a mixture of like symbology, essentially. Because a lot of things don't quite add up together at that first act. And then by the third act, everything is coming together. At least that's my theory on it so far. Also, because we're relying on the Joker to be a storyteller for this one, I believe that the stuff about Thomas Wayne isn't 100% true either. Basically, we're having to rely on a guy who's very emotional and has mental illnesses to tell us what the reaction between him and Thomas Wayne really was. I'm willing to tell you that maybe a little bit of truth is in there, but I don't think it's 100% as the Joker would tell it to you. That all being said, this is a very interesting movie. This is probably the best movie this director's made. I keep forgetting the guy's name, but he's the guy who directed what were those movies called again? The Hangover?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because I've seen all the takes with his other remarks after making the movie.
Mm-hmm. In particular, I've been hearing about how it's hard for him to make comedies lately. And I get the feeling that some of that anger about that is possibly in this movie too a little bit, but it's not like being overly oppressive about hammering that idea home.
Okay.
A lot of this movie is definitely about mental illness and retelling the story as to what the Joker thinks might be his backstory, at least at the time of him being in the hospital for the first time.
Todd Phillips is the director.
Todd Phillips, okay, yeah.
The Hangover movies, Starsky and Hutch, Old School, and Road Trip, and among other stuff.
Oh, I've seen Old School and Road Trip. Those are some decent comedies. Anyway. Out of them, I think Road Trip is a weird one that I find unusual for me to like, but for some reason I really liked it the first time I saw it. So, anyway, yeah, this is a very interesting and very dark and deep movie for what it is. I believe I've been hearing rumors that Joaquin Phoenix might already be up for an Oscar nomination. And if it doesn't happen, I already feel like the Oscars are beyond jaded and cheated on anyway, so...
Well, like, the fact that it's comic book related in this particular way is probably what will count against it, unfortunately.
That being said, holy
cow. The
cow.
most they get is, like, effects.
If he does win, it'll be the second time a person playing the Joker has won.
Yeah.
So that might mean that play the Joker and get an Oscar.
As long as you play an interesting take that people really like.
That makes me wonder, did Mark ever win one? It wouldn't be an Oscar, but what's the TV version again?
Emmy?
An Emmy? Or something? Not that I'm aware of. I can't say off the top of my head.
Though it would have to depend on if there was an award for something like that for cartoons.
Okay. Like we're over 5 minutes. So I'm going to hurry this up and say I think this is a very interesting movie. I think there's a lot of stuff people can make a lot of takes on from this. I don't think it's nearly as negative as some of the early press was saying it was going to be because they were hammering that home before the thing even released. I think I think this is a pretty good take for the Joker's backstory, even though, and I also would say that I think it's so strange and warped that it still can technically fall under the air quotes multiple choice background that we've come to know for quite a while now. I think it still fits because we don't know all the truths here because a lot of this is symbology, not reality. At least up until that last act. That's my thoughts on it, anyways. So there you go.
All right. And I think that brings us on to the summary, unless anyone.
Yeah, I
had
was
any
about to say, I believe that takes us to summary now.
Yeah.
So that means I need to talk more. Hello. So I'm going to bring up the image holder for our title card here, and
Does that mean you need somebody else on the stopwatch, or?
I've been stopwatching us for the most part, but you can join me and stop watching me if you want to, just to make sure we keep close.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
All right, give me a countdown.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
All right, so we start off the episode with a man, I believe this is 1950s Britain, is that if I recall correctly? And he's counting down a bunch of numbers and realizes he's $200 or 200 pounds probably, rather, overdrawn at the bank. He's apparently a television salesman and repairman, possibly. And he seems to be hard on his luck, despite the fact that a coronation is coming up pretty quickly. As he is panicking about this and falling asleep in his own building, a strange storm starts to brew up, and a red lightning bolt suddenly hits his building, to which the image of a woman who was previously on his television earlier appears and starts to actually talk to him. Suddenly, as he's talking to it, it says it's going to help him and reaches out with energy tendrils and grabs his face. Cut to after opening credits, and the Doctor and Rose appear, and they're talking about going to see Elvis in New York, and only to drive down the block and suddenly realize they're in Britain still. As they're figuring this all out, they hear commotion and come across a couple of secret police types gathering up a person, putting them in a car, and I believe one of them even punches his lights out. No, actually, that was later. But they managed to push this person to a vehicle. The Doctor and Rose give chase, only to find a dead-end alley with people acting like nothing has come through here in the last couple of minutes. Confused, they start to hit the streets again and start asking around. They do figure out that the coronation is coming soon, and they also do figure out that there's been a lot of people buying televisions because they want to be able to see it instead of having to try and struggle to see it live. The family that they pick up on next, in particular, seems the family they decided to pick on and check up on the most is because the boy from this family was in their weird encounter in the streets. So they followed him back to his home and start questioning the father, who is relatively rude and rather obnoxious to his family, especially in private. And they also notice that the son and the wife are acting very strange. When they start to push for more answers, and the Doctor gives him the evil eyes back, the strange knocking starts to come from upstairs, and they find out that the grandmother of the family has had something happen to her. They go upstairs to investigate, and they find that she has no face. The Doctor starts studying her and starts to figure out a few answers, but doesn't quite know what's for sure going on when the secret police yet again show up, knock out the Doctor, and Rose starts to see red electricity around the television set. The Doctor once again gives chase and only finds a dead-end alley, and then proceeds to try and find a way to break in and secretly find out what's going on back there, because he assumes, since it's the same alley again, that there must be something behind that gate. Rose, trying to stick her nose further in, figures out after leaving the family that there must be something up with the televisions, and goes to visit the television guy who's been selling his stuff at breakneck prices for extremely cheap. talking to the man. Suddenly, one of the TVs pops on, and the woman starts talking again. At first, saying nothing after the initial "feed me" line, but as he gets more and more nervous, he starts alluding more and more towards the television, and Rose starts to finally interact with the character as well before she's also attacked by it. Long story short, Rose appears a couple hours later at the secret area where the police have been trying to quarantine off the strange people that have gone faceless. The doctor pushes the police that they need to go investigate deeper and actually go out there and find out what the hell's going on. The doctor, after a few more hints, finally catches up to where Rose was, goes to the television shop, finds out that the creature that refers to itself as the Wire has been stealing identities and taking over minds and feeding off of them like batteries. And this has been supercharging it to hopefully eventually make enough energy to allow it to take physical form again, after supposedly been almost killed by its own species. The alien then hops into a television after barely escaping an attempt by the doctor to stop it, and had the doctor forced to try and stop it after it nearly tries to take him, the officer, and the young boy from the family. The doctor is forced to give chase after collecting a mishmash of assembly parts, and manages to catch up with the Wire at a radio tower, and manages to reverse essentially what the creature is doing. And instead of taking and eliminating other people, it's been recorded onto a Betamax tape. The father of the family is told to finally leave by the mother, and after the events with the grandmother, and the doctor and Rose, after having a bit of a coronation party, decide to head back to the TARDIS. The end. I went a little long-winded.
Right, so I got that at about 5 minutes, 22 seconds.
I got 23, so yep, relatively close there. All right. Oh, I just happened to think we didn't do any dice rollers for people, have we?
I did roll dice quietly, and it was
Ah.
more or less in the same order that was already there, except moving me to the back because I was the one doing the rolling.
All right.
So that would mean we start with what Thomas liked about the episode.
It's hard to narrow something down specifically, I think. Oh, yes. The effect of them being faceless. Which I feel like in a few places it looks like there's a bit of a CGI touch up to whatever prosthetic is there, but most of it looks like it's just practical. And it's like, shit, we've been able to do this since 2006, but they haven't done the question in live action yet. What the fuck?
There was at least one
pretty
scene to
solid.
me that looked like they had just put a blur effect over it, but that might have just been a touch up after.
Yeah, I
after
think
prosthetic,
it was a
like you said.
mixture of the two, and I think there's actually a couple. I think the one with Rose in particular, actually, when she's standing in front of the doctor, was actually all CG. That was the only one that was all CG. I think a couple of them were all practical when the lights were dim, and then they did touch-ups when the lights were on.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if there were cases where they might have tried a prosthetic on someone, and then the person freaked out.
Or the
something,
prosthetic
depending on
itself
how the
failed and they
prosthetic
needed to fix
worked.
edges and stuff. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
various reasons for it. But yeah, they might have even done it to hide eye holes so people would freak out less. Anyway.
Right. Next would be Matt.
All right, thing that I like the most. Trying to think one particular thing I like the most. I'm going to go with the lovely factor that this particularly starts up with them trying to go visit Elvis, and once again the doctor has failed to quite nail not only position but also time.
Yeah.
And Rose is not remotely surprised by this. She's kind of expecting it to happen, it seems.
Yeah.
It's always
Instead of
amusing
the
when he
king,
tries to
they
actually
need
purposely go
queen.
somewhere and it always fails.
Yeah.
Love that New York vibe.
Yeah. And Rose just takes it as stride as usual because always some sort of mess up. All right, I'm good. So I guess next is Tim.
Yep. Okay, something I really liked about this episode, I really liked how you could see how the Doctor sort of shifted his line of attack, so to speak, when dealing with different people. Like he dealt with the douchebag father one way, and then the Inspector General thing. Like I really loved how he won the Inspector General over, like just by like sort of being the Doctor
Mm-hmm. Just talking him
in a way.
logically through it.
Yeah, and how he
Insulting him a little bit, but that's also being the
handled
Doctor.
A bit of prodding.
the mom and the son too. You know, just the different aspects we saw of David Tennant's performance. I really liked.
You count the way that he kind of knew when to tag Rose in to talk to somebody as part of that
Mm-hmm.
domestic approach.
Yep.
Right? You done with that, or anything
I'm
else?
done.
Okay. So I thought I was afraid someone was going to take mine, but I love the history in this. As most of us here are North Americans, and I had no idea that this was a particularly significant event, either in television history or in world history in general. I'm like, yeah, a new queen got coronated. That happens all the time, and that was all I had ever thought about it. So this episode, even though it's not a strict historical, taught me a little bit about the meaning of this particular coronation in modern history, which was nice.
Yeah, it was the first one televised. I think it's currently
Yep.
the only one televised because I don't think they've
She's
had a
not dead
replacement.
yet.
Well, yeah, because this is Queen Elizabeth II, so we haven't had one since.
I mean, it's the only English one. I mean, I'm sure
There might have
there's
been a
been
few other
being
countries, but yeah,
coronated
this is
some-
the only
yeah.
English one so far.
Mm.
Yeah.
So the next one's gonna be in color.
All right. So what we disliked about the episode, and once again, it's Thomas first.
There was something I was gonna go with, but then I realized it's more a scene that I take issue with, so I'll leave that for later. And I'll just go with the fact that it seems annoying to me that the Doctor, while the Doctor's interested in what's going on, it's only that he shifts into high gear because something's happened to Rose. It's like, come on, the Doctor would be flat out as interested and wanting to sort this shit out before then, and it's just like it feels like it's starting to lean into that he's got a thing for Rose, so
It does lean to that, but I also do
I
feel that
must
he was
be
still
doing
trying, but he was now like, okay, and more proactive approach now after seeing Rose.
yeah, because like it seems like he's leaning too heavily on, oh, how dare you do that to Rose, now you've gone too far. It's like,
Mm-hmm. A little bit.
hello, all these
So
other
do you
people have had this happen too.
Do you think if well, to use a recent example, let's say everyone in the world was being brainwashed and the second Doctor was investigating, you don't think he would have had that same reaction if Jamie ended up as one of the brainwashed people?
Well, I feel like he would have already been hyper like, oh shit, what the fuck's going, because he's very much like, hell, the macro terror. He was very much like, no, you've got to think for yourself, and he was kind of aiming that. The only reason he wasn't aiming that at everyone else is because he was trying not to step on anyone's toes, really.
So you
But
kind
he
of
was
think
also trying to, yeah, like it was before that he was trying to figure out what was going on.
right. So you kind of think he
Before,
was a little too low gear until he saw Rose.
yeah, like at least to me, or at least once it happened to Rose, it seemed like the emphasis was on saving Rose and not like saving everyone.
See, I see it technically as him being a little low key about to not get her into trouble, but then again, he's been away from her for so long. It's like, what did you expect? Something's obviously gotten to happen.
And I also kind of see it as and he part of what really makes him livid about it is kind of the personal insult, the way that instead of, all these others that happened, in their house, and
that
they
too.
stayed where they were, and this one they sapped Rose's identity and then dumped her out in the street as kind of a fuck you.
Yeah, I think that's actually probably more of it too. Is that this is a kind of a fuck you message to the Doctor, and he's just like, okay, no, fuck you back.
Like, it might just be me, but it comes off more as like I can understand, it's understandable.
It's understandable both ways from what you're saying too.
Yeah, like, it's understandable that he's obviously pissed off that something's happened to the companion, but it seems like, at least to me anyway, it seems like too much emphasis is put on, oh, well, now I absolutely have to do something because something happened to the companion. Fuck everyone else.
Yeah. Like Shaq said in the movie Steel, it's on now.
Yar.
I do find, the way you describe that interesting, because that's, in terms of writing drama, that's kind of something that you're taught is the right thing to do. You start with the general threat, save everybody, and then you make it fucking personal, and that's kind of what they did here.
But at the same time, this Doctor did suffer a bit from attachment.
I guess it's because of where this leads to might be tainting it for me, that it's like,
yeah, that's
just
a possibility too.
It's another chapter in the
whole
Rose Doctor thing.
Yeah.
All right, so we've interrogated you enough. It's time for Matt.
Something I didn't like in general. Despite the fact that the Wire, as it calls itself, can be very intelligent at times and even has some interesting dialogues now and again, I find it really bothersome that the entirety of the end of the episode is just it screaming "feed me" constantly.
Yeah.
It got really tedious for a few moments, and not just one scene, but multiple scenes as we get to the build-up of the final act.
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone else get flashbacks to Audrey too?
I was very close to it. Occurred to me after the fact. Oh, I probably would have suggested
we should have gone that now. Yeah.
Even TARDIS Data Core made that link. So I'm actually going to stick myself in here and piggyback off of that, because The Wire in general, as much as there were good things about the premise, just kind of really rubbed me the wrong way. Even like, not even just she's seemingly this intelligent being, but then starts screaming "hungry, hungry."
Yeah.
Things like that, like randomly. Plus, there's just, it seems the fact that there's like it's almost like she was made by two different writers, where there's this whole like outlawed, being trapped in the TV, but then she behaves as if like the TV was her natural habitat at times, especially with the whole like referring to it as being hungry. Like, if I were trapped in a TV and I needed to draw people's energy, I wouldn't consider that would be different from hunger for me. You know what I mean? Like, as a corporeal being. So that's why I feel like it was almost like she was written by two different writers that didn't agree on what her nature was.
That's a possibility too, a little bit.
So I don't know, maybe that's RTD and Mark Gaddis like disagreeing, but.
Yeah, like, if you get rid of like the hungry feed me crap, then she probably would have been like a positive thing that I probably would have brought up, but it's just
it was less more about I'm hungry and more I need more power. Then that would be a little more understandable.
Yeah.
And she was also less feral about the hungry parts.
So I'm kind of wondering if we can blame that part on RTD, if he was just like
maybe it was RTD being too corny with her. Saying her as it has a female representation, by the way.
Right.
That's just the image it took.
Yeah. With that, Matt.
All right. Yeah, that's ours apparently. So
Tim.
The character of the father seemed a bit one-dimensional at times, and that was kind of awkward in that the other characters were more fleshed out, and you could see hints of like a fleshed out character peeking out in his interactions with his wife and how the wife dealt with him and stood up to him. But it was just like, it felt like there's this one character that could have used a bit more rewriting in the script or something.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree with you there. He kind of, there's this
The-
one
the-
note, that keeps
especially
hammering
towards
home,
the.
that's about it.
You go ahead. Sorry.
I finished.
Oh, I butted in some of that, so try that again.
Oh, so I was saying, I agree. There's this one note that he keeps hammering home, and that's about it.
Yeah.
yeah.
In particular, I feel like there was a little bit of something coming out a little bit more towards the very end when he was particularly walking off of his son. There could have been something more there again, and if you would have had something, if you give that a little more time, and maybe some more time to something along those lines earlier, we could have actually humanized him instead of making him like on off, just a spiteful pain in the neck.
What I found interesting there was that they needed Rose to say maybe there's a second, maybe he's 2-dimensional instead of 1-dimensional. Go talk to him and find out, instead of letting that reveal itself through the way they
That's
interact.
also one of the things I liked about that particular scene too, is Rose adding a little more of the needed human touch to the whole thing. No matter what he does, he's still your father, kind of deal.
So I guess time to move on to favorite scenes. Thomas?
Ooh. God. Honestly, probably if I had to pick, when the Doctor and Rose are bossing the dad about, pretty much. Like, even a bit later when, like, he does his typical I'm talking thing and the Doctor just gets right up and is like, and I'm not listening, like,
I
right up
just
in his
literally
face.
found like a 2-frame comic strip thing of that.
Yeah, I think that's all I've really got, because it's yeah.
Just happen to notice David Tennant has some good angry eyebrows right there. Anyway, I believe it's me
Matt?
next. Yeah.
Yep.
Favorite scene. Oh gosh. There's a lot of them I could have picked, and we actually discussed a couple of them already a little bit, but I'm going to go with the scene where the Doctor is talking with the Wire, and he's finally starting to pull everything together.
You're saying right before she tries to take his face?
Yeah. Right before she tries to take his face, and even after that, there's a little bit of interesting stuff afterwards, but particularly that dialogue was an interesting one as he's piecing everything together for us. We had a few things, but we didn't have everything.
Right. Okay. Tim?
My favorite scene is when the Doctor invents Betamax. And I love just the fact that it is Betamax and not VHS.
Yeah, I'm just
Right.
my reaction seeing it this time was like, oh yes, this is gonna be higher quality than some of the other tapes.
Kind of related to that, I forgot to comment when Matt said his. When Matt's seen color television.
Color television, yes. Oh my god, color. That's another thing too, that there was a kind of a thing at that time. I believe they were on the cusp of adding bringing out color television, but it hadn't happened yet at that particular time.
Especially not in Britain, because
They were
a
10
bit
years behind. Yeah,
there as well.
yeah. I think America was just starting to become a big thing. So give it another 5 to 10 years, and Britain would have been a big thing too.
So actually, funny that I just looked it up. So this was actually the same year that the first color television was made.
Big go.
That happened December 17, and the coronation, I do not have that window open
Coronation
anymore.
looked to be like
I'm guessing it was in
springtime
that
or
summer.
summertime,
Yeah.
something like that. So much earlier in the year. Yeah. So color was about to become a big thing in America pretty quickly, if it wasn't already. Yeah. That's my favorite scene.
Anything else, Tim?
And that was Tim's. Okay, so then Bill.
Tim's all done?
I'm done.
Yeah.
So I guess I would have to go with the that opening scene of the Doctor and Rose. It's just so iconic, and it's just so like symbolic of their relationship with each other. And it's just it's funny. It sets the stage,
They're out to have a good
and
time. Oh wait,
can't
something's
help but
not quite
enjoy
right.
it. Right.
And of course, Rose having a giggle at his expense as he looks slightly baffled.
Although I guess I could choose as as a second best, the scene with the two of them in the first time they go into the house and they're like, "What the fuck is up with this dude? We're gonna have to show him how his place a little bit." So least favorite scene, Thomas.
Thank God I'm going first because this one really still bugs the shit out of me, and that is Rose convincing the kid to go after the dad. Because it's just like, to me, it's like, okay, the whole point is that this guy is a complete asshole who needs to like fuck off for a while, and then maybe he'll realize, oh yeah, I was a shitty person. I should try to be a better person. But she's like, no, I watched my dad die, so you have to go and reconcile with your dad because fuck you.
I don't
Damn
think
it,
it's so much
Thomas.
reconciling, just as much as hey, he's still blood.
Mm.
At least give him have a chance to be a decent person on the way out the door.
Mm. Like, to me, it's just silly because it's like, to me, it feels like a triumphant moment when the mom's finally like, get the fuck out of my house.
It was.
And then they try to
Um,
follow that up with, oh, well, your dad's an abusive asshole and he'll probably beat the shit out of you. But yeah, go off and talk to him.
I was gonna say, that's what rubs me the wrong way and why I was going to pick that scene if you hadn't. And that was, he's very obviously emotionally abusive, and the entire family is coded to imply that he's physically abusive, but he's not physically abusive on screen. That's
Well, yeah,
not the
not even
person.
so much coded. They like, there is a scene where like
He threatens.
his auntie or something is like,
Oh,
oh, well, you'll
yeah.
have to beat that out of him, and he's
That's what
like,
I'm
oh,
gonna
I
do.
plan to.
So that's not like, you don't walk up to an abuse victim and say, yeah, you need to go reconcile with your abuser. You need to go show them that you're okay with them and you forgive them. No, you don't do that.
Nope.
That is not good advice to give.
Yeah,
Even
like if
as in the form of fiction.
yeah, like if it had been an arc where the dad was learning to not be a shitty human being, then that would have been fine.
Right.
So like by
Right.
the end of it, he's like, I realized I'm a shitty person. I want to try and make it up to you. Okay, I mean, even that is like, well, he could just be bullshitting. But if the idea was he realized how much of a shit person he was being, and the idea was like, okay, I'm gonna try and be a better dad. Okay, but that's not what they went with, so it's just
Even
kind of awkward.
or even like we were saying before, where if he was written with a little more dimension, and you could see like, he had some tender moments with his son where they shared like some things, or anything other than being abusive would have made that
Yeah.
scene a little better for me.
And hell, they even had an out, kind of. I mean, it's probably a bit cliche, but they could have just gone with, the idea is that he served in World War II, so you could say he had PTSD, and it was a matter of he needed to find an outlet to help him cope that wasn't taking it out on his family or something like that.
Right. And that, as a psychology major, I do know like that is a common thing among veterans. They come back, they've been trained, violence is the answer, push down soft emotions. They come back and they don't know what to do other than beat the shit out of their families a lot of the time, and they need counseling to Matt, least favorite scene?
Yeah, you bucked up for a minute there, but least favorite scene. Actually, really quick on the last scene though. I understand where you guys are coming from, but I kind of understand where Rose is coming from, to be honest, because I'm going to say that not everything is always kosher, kind of deal. There's some high stress even in my family, kind of deal, and it gets pretty bad at times. But anyway, I'm not going to dwell too much on that. Least favorite scene. I'm going to literally have to go with the scene where what's his name, the TV guy?
Magpie.
Mr.
Magpie.
Magpie.
Yeah, where Magpie's hanging off the radio tower, and he's literally like, I can't do this, and all she just chants at him is "feed me" from the wire. It's just like, ugh. That's the part where it just hits me the hardest, where it's like, oh my word.
Mm.
Whoever wrote this particular creature for the wire really needed to come up with something other than chanting "feed me."
Mm.
Like, you could literally, the way the Magpie was reacting after she shouted that, you could have literally added a dialogue about her causing him pain to like force him to keep going anyways. It would have been at least a little more sensical.
Mm.
But it just comes off as horribly weak. That's my big one.
Okay. Tim?
Okay, the scene where Magpie says to Rose after he confronts him in his shop, like, "It's not me, it's her," and Rose says, "That's just a program on the telly," and like, I'm like, okay, Rose, this is how long have you been traveling with the Doctor, and what has been going on? Is like that is not a reaction I would expect from you at this point. Is like, no, that is not just a woman on a program on the telly. I that is the alien monster of the week.
Mm.
You should know better by now.
Yeah, especially considering literally her first appearance is, against the Autons. So you'd think it's like, oh, living friggin' shop mannequins and all that. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll believe just about anything now.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that the image on the television said like one line, which is really weird, and was just the line "feed me," and it's been seen there and been on the entire time she's been talking to this guy. You'd think she would have caught on a little bit sooner.
Mm-hmm. I guess that brings it to me, and I've been working on thinking of my second, and I guess I'm going to go with the scene with the detective inspector and the doctor convincing them, and mainly because it was so like easy, so anticlimactic compared to the rest of the episode, especially when this is the season where they should have been like unless I'm mixing up my seasons, let me know if I am, but I'm pretty sure they were in the process of introducing Torchwood at this time. And it would have been so much more effective to have like a hostile Torchwood agent who is just like, if it's, not really giving up the game just yet, but being like, oh yeah, this is weird shit, therefore Torchwood's involved and fuck you, Doctor. And instead it's just kind of, the Doctor comes in, tells them what's what, and then they follow him around as his sidekicks for the rest of the episode. And it's kind of anticlimactic.
I can see where you're coming from on that, but at the same time, the Torchwood was kind of at least at the time, Torchwood was like the big secret word of the season, and people were just like, "Ooh, what's it gonna be?"
That's
You
what I
don't
mean,
want
where
to
it
be
could have
too
been like
blunt
building
about
up
it,
a
because
little bit
otherwise
more.
you're giving up
Yeah.
your game, and you're not even halfway through the season.
But I mean, like, even without, like, I mean, that would have been nice. Like, that's what I would have recommended. But even without that,
Maybe a
you just
passing
ignore
reference
that,
about Torchwood being a pain in his ass or something.
right? But like, even even if you ignore Torchwood, just within the episode itself, I feel like that was just too easy. That the Doctor did not have to work hard at all to convince them to just be his puppy dog.
To be honest, I think these guys to be also under a lot of stress, and he was able to weasel in a little bit easier than normal. Is my take on it. But
Gotcha.
it's also trying to pinch for any more bad things in a relatively good episode. Let's be honest.
All right, so that brings us to final thoughts. Thomas, what do you think?
Honestly, this is one of those episodes where it's like, it's fine, but I'm not really ever in any rush to watch it. And literally the only things I can really ever remember are like the bit at the end with the doctor climbing the giant antenna thing, like the tower and that, and like the woman on the TV, and that's like pretty much it. Is all I can usually remember from this. So like, it's like it's not horrible by any stretch, but it's one of those things where it's like I feel like this probably needed a bit more time, like development time, to have been like an even better episode. So yeah, like I don't know if I'd recommend it, but I also wouldn't say people should never watch it or anything. Like if you're marathoning it, this isn't the one you'll skip, especially considering like a few episodes later is Love and Monsters, which you can so it's like, I would definitely rate this above that at the very least.
All right, Matt?
Um, I will say that this is a really good episode, but I will also rate it as a sometimes forgettable one. It's a very skippable episode, is what the problem is with this one, I feel. There's a lot of good stuff going on, and they did a fairly good and competent job of a lot of the effects and most of the story and most of the character building. But it's just kind of that weird in between where I think they just need a fluff piece to finish off the season. And this is a giant kernel of fluff. It's good, but it's not overly fulfilling and not highly memorable outside of a few key moments.
It also doesn't help that it's stuck between two-parters. Because you got the reintroduction of the Cybermen before it, and then what we'll be doing next week after it. So
True, and both of them do take up quite a bit of attention from this particular episode. Just the awkward middle child episode.
All done?
Mm-hmm. Timothy?
The thing that really carries this episode is David Tennant's performances and his like interactions with everyone else on the set. This episode did have some pretty good special effects and a unique villain that might have been a better, even better if with some rewrites. But then again, I think this episode, there were parts of this episode that could have been rewritten as well. This episode is like sort of docked some points because there were times when the reactions of the father and like the hints of abuse like just made me just downright feel uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah.
And I know that sort of like might have been what they were going for, but that doesn't mean I have to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say if you're a completist, you can watch this episode. If not, you can give it a pass and just watch the two-parters. Not miss anything. That's basically what I have to say.
All right. So what I tend to find most memorable about this episode, it's kind of funny, is that it's something we haven't really brought up yet, and is the fact that this episode was very clearly, no bones about it, written for Christopher Eccleston, to the point where David Tennant is really trying to do his best Christopher Eccleston at times. And it's just awkward as a result.
Yeah, that's, I think, part of where the rage over Rose getting attacked comes from, too.
Yeah,
Because Chris was the one that was forced into a promise to always protect Rose no matter what.
And he's just such a more physical, like he has a different type of emotional actor than David is. They have very different styles. And this episode was clearly written for Chris's style. And at the same time, I feel like that's where some of the benefits of this come from, because there's a way that the Ninth Doctor and Rose were written that the 10th Doctor and Rose very rarely were. And I think that this episode kind of just is right there where, they're close, they're friends, they work well together, but it's not yet, at least in my view, it's not yet moving into that territory that some people would come to really resent down the line. And yeah, it's a very transitional middle ground episode, especially when you get to what we talked about with The Wire, which it definitely does make it's kind of forgettable. It's not going to make any top episode lists, and it's not, at least I don't think it's value. It needs to go on to any worst episode lists either, which is why sometimes it just gets left out of the conversation. And that's about it for me. So it's time to move on to ratings. Thomas.
Well, I think it's at least good enough to rate it high enough above. Because I was looking back even just to okay, so I gave Love and Monsters a 2. I don't think this is anywhere near that bad, but I don't think it's necessarily good enough, at least in my opinion, for a 4. So I'll give it a 3.5.
Matt?
I'm a bit higher than that, so actually I am going to be giving this a 4. It's good, not great, and not perfect. It's just good.
All right.
And I will side with Matt and give it a 4 as well.
Okay. I kind of agree with Thomas. I don't think it's quite good enough to give it a 4.0. I'll give it a 3.5. So that's 2 4s, 2 3.5s, gives us a 3.75 rating.
And we'll have to wait for Randy for final notes.
So let's pull up the master sheet and look at where the 3.75 is.
Not very many of those. It's kind of impossible with 5 people, to be honest.
Yeah, true. So it's only good to the first decimal point, so it'd be tied with all the 3.8s, which there are quite a few of. So that puts it in the realm of Keeper of Traken, Boomtown, Ghostlight, Sarah Jane Adventures, Eye of the Gorgon, Enemy of the World, Girl on the Fireplace, End of the World, Daleks Invasion Earth 2150, Hungry Earth Cold Blood, Day of the Daleks, The Sixth Doctor Last Adventure of the Red House from Big Finish, Robot of Sherwood, the Extremis Trilogy, The Time Monster, and Smith and Jones. It's right below such episodes as Power of the Daleks, Kerblam, The Chase, Blink, and The Next Doctor. And it's above episodes such as The Moon Base, Flatline, and The Daleks.
Fair enough.
Right. So next we move on to, I believe, the very next episode as we continue our wrap up of the remaining 10th Doctor episodes. And that is The Impossible Planet, The Satan Pit, written by Matt Jones and starring David Tennant as the Doctor and Billy Piper as Rose Tyler. And we were talking about the dynamic between those two characters and what people might dislike. So I'm sure we're going to have some opinions on this next week.
Oh, dearie me.
All right. So, don't forget to comment below on Twitch or YouTube. Like the video if you do. Let us know what you thought of the Idiots. I'm
Idiot's
blanking
Lantern.
at the moment. Yeah,
Idiot's
the Idiot's
Lantern.
Lantern. I wanted to say the Idiot Box. I'm like, that's not correct.
No.
The
light,
Idiot's
not the box.
Lantern. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe or follow to continue seeing our future updates. Good night, everyone.
Yep. Good night.
Good night. Good night.